Have you ever experienced the sharp sting of betrayal, severing bonds you believed were unbreakable? I have. My life with Desiree, once a vision of mutual love and respect, crumbled when I discovered her with my brother. "Son, you seem troubled." "What's wrong?" my father inquired, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. Her words, "It meant nothing, Alex, I swear," rang hollow against the backdrop of my anguish. As I traversed the ruins of trust and fidelity, my journey was solitary, shrouded in darkness. This is my narrative. Witness it unfold. During our upbringing, my brother Gordon and I engaged in frequent skirmishes over trivial matters, driven by our shared desire for victory. Despite his 2-year seniority, I persisted, though victories were scarce. Even in high school, our rivalry persisted as we both vied for supremacy. He dominated the football field, while I excelled in basketball. While he boasted greater strength, I could outmaneuver him in wrestling. Yet, amidst our rivalry, there was one aspect we never contested: our romantic interests. Our preferences diverged, with him pursuing older girls uninterested in younger siblings like me, a notion that unsettled me. In my final year of high school, as Gordon pursued his business studies in college, I encountered Desiree in biology class. Bonded by our shared lab activities, our connection deepened over time. Having recently endured the pain of infidelity, Desiree gradually opened up to me. By year's end, we became a couple, attending prom together, where our compatibility garnered admiration, albeit without securing the coveted titles of prom king and queen. Upon graduating, brimming with youthful optimism, our families celebrated our union with a grand party. It was then I proposed, and her resounding yes filled me with boundless joy. Our bond flourished rapidly, our connection seamless in every aspect, including our intimacy. We were blissfully content together. Inspired by her sister's career path, Desiree enrolled in a 2-year radiology program at a local college, prompting me to pursue a 4-year HVAC course at the same institution, following in my father's footsteps. To support my education, I took a summer job alongside my father, while Desiree opted for a leisurely summer, her tuition already covered by her parents. Each weekday evening, she faithfully awaited my return at my home. After a quick shower, our time together unfolded in the familiar routine of either cozying up for a movie night indoors or venturing out. However, on a fateful Wednesday during the 3rd week of summer, a call interrupted the monotony of work, summoning me to assist my father with a malfunctioning air conditioner at a store. As the designated helper, I eagerly left the sweltering rooftop for the sanctuary of home to retrieve a specialized tool inadvertently left behind by my father. Yet, upon my arrival, laughter emanating from upstairs shattered the tranquility. Curiosity piqued, I stealthily ascended the stairs, intending to startle my brother Gordon, only to be met with a scene that shattered my world. Behind his closed door, the unmistakable sounds of intimacy resonated, and to my dismay, the voice I recognized belonged to my beloved Desiree. In an instant, heartbreak intertwined with fury consumed me as I bore witness to their clandestine liaison. Driven by a tumult of emotions, I confronted them, wrenching the symbol of our commitment from Desiree's finger as shock painted her features. Gordon, too, stood bewildered by my sudden intrusion into their deceit. Retreating from the scene, I sought solace in work, where my distressed countenance did not escape my father's notice. Privately, I confided in him, revealing the painful betrayal I had witnessed. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, my father offered solace and counsel, advocating for a period of introspection and emotional healing. Thus, I distanced myself from the perpetrators of my anguish, immersing myself in the refuge of a friend's home, where distractions and camaraderie offered temporary respite. Despite incessant attempts at communication from Desiree and Gordon, my wounded pride and resentment remained steadfast, rendering me impervious to their pleas. In the ensuing hours, amid the tumult of emotions and shattered dreams, I grappled with the daunting task of rebuilding my life from the ruins of betrayal, the weight of uncertainty and heartache bearing heavily upon me as I endeavored to forge a new path forward. The following day, after a hasty shower, I reluctantly donned the same attire, grabbed a quick breakfast at IHOP, and punctually arrived at work. My father's relief at seeing me was palpable as he expressed concern for my well-being. "Dad, I'd rather not discuss it, if that's all right. Can I just focus on work and get through the day?" I requested, seeking refuge in productivity. Of course, son. I understand, but remember, avoiding life's challenges isn't the solution, he gently reminded me, his wisdom piercing through my anger. Though begrudgingly admitting his wisdom, I found myself consumed by rage, dreading the possibility of encountering Gordon and losing control. Immersing myself in strenuous tasks, I tackled the most arduous assignments with fervor, channeling my pent-up emotions into physical exertion. Maneuvering a cumbersome compressor became my sanctuary, its urgent repair offering a distraction from the turmoil within. Tasked as the novice with a 6-hour drive to the nearest repair facility, I welcomed the opportunity for solitude, shutting off my phone to shield myself from conversations about my fractured love life, my mood dark and brooding. Fortuitously, the repair shop possessed a replacement compressor, expediting the repair process. After completing the exchange and coordinating the crane's assistance, I returned home late in the evening, exhaustion weighing heavily upon me. Refusing Gordon's attempts to engage, I retreated to my room, seeking solace in the numbing glow of the television until sleep mercifully claimed me. Saturday morning dawned eerily quiet, the weight of anticipation heavy in the air. Dressed and descending the stairs, I encountered a gathering of unexpected faces in the living room, my family, Desiree and her parents, our church pastor, and a trio of close friends. Dread settled in my stomach as I braced for the impending confrontation. Initiating the uncomfortable discourse, my father conveyed regret at the necessity of addressing the situation publicly, emphasizing the collective desire for resolution and reconciliation. My mother echoed his sentiments, acknowledging the unfortunate circumstances and extending invitations for apologies from Gordon and Desiree. Gordon spoke up first, acknowledging the discomfort of the situation and expressing remorse for my unexpected intrusion. He attributed his actions to a lapse in judgment, emphasizing his accountability and urging forgiveness for Desiree, whom he absolved of blame, asserting that our union was destined. Silence lingered on my end, amplifying the tension in the room. I directed my glare at Desiree until she found the courage to speak, admitting her mistake and pleading for clemency, vowing that the indiscretion was an isolated incident and professing her unwavering love and desire for our future together. While Desiree's parents offered silent support, Pastor Jenkins interjected, invoking scripture and philosophical wisdom to encourage forgiveness and growth, acknowledging the complexity of the situation and the need for time to heal. Resisting the pressure to forgive immediately, I remained steadfast, grappling with conflicting emotions and the weight of betrayal. Despite the pleas from loved ones and friends, I hesitated to offer absolution, cognizant of the enormity of the breach of trust. Brent, ever the supportive friend, attempted to lift my spirits with humor and camaraderie, suggesting a distraction in the form of a game of pool. Yet, I hesitated to engage, recognizing the need for introspection and the reluctance to confront the pain head-on. Acknowledging their efforts with gratitude, I declined to provide the resolution they sought, acknowledging the complexity of my emotions and the necessity of time and space to navigate the tumultuous aftermath of betrayal. At that moment, I realized any attempt at communication would only result in further embarrassment, a scenario I desperately sought to avoid. Turning to Desiree, I calmly requested the house key I had entrusted to her, urging her to refrain from visiting until I could navigate my emotions. But how can we progress if I'm not there to support you? Alex, my love for you is unwavering, and I long for our future together, Desiree protested, her words striking me with a painful intensity. Feeling unheard, I turned to her parents, seeking their assistance in enforcing the necessary distance. With a silent nod, they acknowledged my request, understanding the gravity of the situation. Expressing regret to my friends, I declined their invitation to play pool, citing a preoccupation with internal turmoil. Instead, I opted for a solitary walk, hoping to find solace amidst the chaos of my thoughts. Addressing Gordon with a tone laced with warning, I emphasized the consequences of any further interaction between us, a sentiment underscored by the simmering animosity within me. Retreating from the tumultuous environment, I sought refuge in solitude, minimizing my presence at home to avoid unwanted encounters. Despite my efforts to distance myself, familial and social pressures persisted, with relentless attempts to influence my emotions and decisions. However, the calm was shattered 3 weeks later, as I found myself confronted once more, this time by Desiree, her parents, and a shocking revelation, her pregnancy. Stunned, I turned to her parents, seeking confirmation of the unexpected news. We've already consulted with the doctor, Desiree's father confirmed, his voice tinged with a mix of apprehension and hope. It's true, Desiree is expecting, her mother murmured solemnly, mirroring the subdued atmosphere that enveloped us all. I turned to Desiree, seeking clarity amidst the uncertainty. When can you schedule the test? I inquired, my voice tinged with skepticism. I'm referring to a DNA test to ascertain paternity before the baby arrives. Desiree's frustration boiled over as she retorted, I've already confirmed my pregnancy, Alex. I'm tired of your doubts. Yes, I made a mistake, but that doesn't invalidate the paternity of our child. You need to trust me, dear. We can still build the future we envisioned. Our love is strong, and we're committed to starting a family together. Can't you see that we belong together? Her impassioned plea failed to sway my resolve. Regardless of the circumstances, I need confirmation, I persisted. Even if it was a one-time occurrence, it raises doubts about your fidelity. So, when can we schedule the test? Desiree's mother interjected, expressing her displeasure at my questioning and defending her daughter's integrity. She outlined the logistical and financial challenges of conducting the test before the baby's birth, proposing a more cost-effective solution post-delivery. My daughter's well-being and that of the baby take precedence, she asserted. Once the child is born, we can pursue a simpler and less expensive test. I am willing to cover the expenses entirely, once I have access to the necessary funds. This situation has caused me considerable distress. My father intervened, offering reassurance of our commitment to covering the expenses incurred. With tensions high, Desiree informed me of the forthcoming test, detailing the procedure and the need for my cooperation. Acknowledging the importance of certainty, I agreed to participate, albeit with a request for advance notice to make necessary arrangements. Despite Desiree's optimism, I emphasized the need for time and clarity before fully embracing the impending journey into parenthood. Desiree's spirits lifted at my cooperation, promising prompt action to facilitate the test and move forward together. On Monday evening, Desiree notified me via text that the paternity test was scheduled for Tuesday morning at 10:30, providing the location. The following day, I met them at the designated facility, where the necessary procedures were conducted. True to my word, I covered the entire cost of the lab tests using my debit card, and we were advised to anticipate definitive results within 7 days. Gordon, sensing a reprieve from the scrutiny, approached me with a jest, expressing his anticipation of becoming an uncle and his intentions to spoil the child. Disregarding his comment, I walked away, unwilling to entertain any semblance of reconciliation. A week later, the results arrived in an overnight FedEx envelope. Gathering with Gordon, my parents, and me, anticipation filled the air as we sought the certified truth. Well, what does it say? My impatient mother inquired. After reading it twice, in summary, Mom, I began solemnly, it states that I am not the father. No further tests are necessary. The revelation was met with a palpable tension, as I voiced my condemnation of Gordon and Desiree's betrayal, severing any remaining ties. For the rest of my days, my father interjected sternly, demanding adherence to decorum despite the gravity of the situation. Crystal clear, I replied curtly, excusing myself from the tumultuous environment. Fueled by indignation, I sought solace in distraction, opting for a solitary outing to a movie, disconnecting from unwanted communication by switching off my phone. Upon returning home, I encountered an unexpected gathering, including Desiree and her mother. Sensing the impending confrontation, I braced myself for the inevitable discourse. Where have you been? My mother inquired sternly. I went out to eat and then to a movie. Why? I responded, wary of the tension in the room. We've been waiting for you for hours. Sit down, Alex, we need to talk, my mother instructed, gesturing towards an empty seat beside Desiree. Choosing to maintain my distance, I disregarded the implied seating arrangement and opted for a solitary chair across the room. Annoyed by my defiance, Desiree continued, attempting to justify her actions and assert her place within the family unit. Feeling a surge of disbelief and betrayal, I remained silent as my mother echoed Desiree's sentiments, rationalizing the situation and asserting the child's inclusion within our family. Gordon's already well into his 4-year degree. It'd be a pity for him to drop out now to tend to the child. He's made substantial strides, and let's not discount your feelings for Desiree. Your bond is strong. It might be wise to look beyond this and wed her. What about my education, Mom? I'm starting school in the fall. Doesn't that matter? It does, dear, but your path is unique. Your father mentioned an apprenticeship program at his workplace. It might take longer than a conventional degree, but it's a secure option. Supporting a family would be more feasible for you this way. Think about it, Alex. It's a pragmatic solution for everyone involved. Doesn't that make sense? Their suggestions caught me off guard. So, you're proposing that I should marry a known cheater and raise another man's child just to simplify things for my brother? Are you suggesting his life holds more weight than mine? Absolutely not, Dad interjected. Both of you are equally precious to us, and we love you both the same. Everyone here, including your brother, believes you and Desiree are destined for each other. Once the baby arrives, he'll be the best possible uncle and will contribute financially. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin. Whether you label your feelings as love or hate, they're powerful emotions toward her. No one will coerce you, especially not me. I love you, Alex, and as your parent, I want what's best for both my sons, not just one. All eyes bore into me, registering disapproval of my stance. Considering all I've learned about Desiree, her actions carry consequences. I've fallen out of love with her. Both she and my brother have betrayed me in the worst way possible. I've no intention of marrying Desiree or raising another man's child. It's out of the question. My resolve was palpable, evident to everyone present. Desiree was in tears, devastated by my outright rejection. Dad offered more insight. Alex, if you decline, it leaves Gordon with no other recourse. Gordon, you must step up and marry her, if she's willing, to raise and support your child. Balancing full-time college and parenting will be a challenge. I'm sorry, son. Without Alex's cooperation, I see no alternative. I sensed Gordon's intense resentment toward me in light of this development. His animosity was apparent in his expression. Gordon, I get that your life's taking a different path, but we Whitcombs never shirk our duties. Your mother and I raised you better than that. When Alex heads off to school in the fall, his assistant position will open up for you. You have the chance to work alongside me and progress. While it might not offer the same income as a college degree, you can make it work if you stay here with your new wife. It might be a bit tight with the baby, but we'll figure it out. I realize you made the decision to let them remain in the same household as me while I pursue my education. However, it'll be a constant reminder of their betrayal every time I return home from school. I'm not sure if I can handle that on a daily basis. Alex, you don't get a say in this. Your mother and I own this house, and we care for both you and Gordon equally. We won't abandon him despite what's happened. Feeling disheartened, I muttered, I'm exhausted. Good night, making it clear I didn't want to be around the betrayers any longer. The next morning, I called in sick and left with determination. I visited 3 local storage facilities and secured a deal. The fee would be automatically deducted from my account. Then, I went to the recruitment center, informing them I'd enlist with the 1st branch to relocate me promptly. The Navy responded swiftly. After tests and exams, I was heading to boot camp in 2 days. Completing the process brought immense relief. Living with 2 who betrayed me, especially since they'd be family, was unbearable. I rented a U-Haul trailer and returned home, no longer considering it my home. Mom and Dad were at work. Dad questioned my absence from work, but I didn't reply. Gordon and Desiree were once again occupied in his room. I had no desire to engage with them. As I moved my belongings into the trailer, Gordon emerged, asking about the situation in my room. I ignored him, focusing on transferring everything. He threatened to call our parents, but I paid no attention. Desiree tried to communicate, but I stayed silent. After loading the trailer, I moved everything to a storage unit. My phone buzzed with notifications, but I didn't respond. Instead, I checked into a budget motel, preparing for boot camp. That evening, I pondered visiting the house, but my emotions were too raw. I decided to bid farewell the following evening before starting my new adventure. Surprisingly, I slept better, feeling empowered by taking control of my life. The next day, I reached out to friends, sharing my situation. They had heard rumors but lacked details. I disclosed Gordon and Desiree's actions, receiving supportive messages. Mom tearfully embraced me that evening, expressing concern. Gordon and Desiree entered, and I requested they leave. Dad stepped in, stating they could stay as Gordon resided there and Desiree was visiting with her new fiancé. I refused to discuss in their presence, so I decided to leave. I handed Mom the keys to the family car I had been using and informed them I enlisted in the Navy. Leaving swiftly, I ignored Mom's calls and tears. Instead of calling an Uber, I walked, turning off my phone, embracing the start of a new chapter. The next 10 weeks were spent at boot camp. I didn't inform Mom and Dad about my graduation. Marching proudly with fellow sailors, I was surprised to see Mom and Dad among the crowd. "Why are you both here?" I asked. Mom embraced me, Dad shook my hand, showing approval. Gordon and Desiree approached. "Why are they here?" I questioned. Mom explained they were now married. My displeasure was evident. I urgently need to use the restroom before the ceremony. I excused myself. Heading to a restricted area, I hoped to send a message. My phone lay in my bunk, luckily. I didn't anticipate any calls after graduation. While most graduates were given a few days off to spend with family, I chose to stay on the base for 3 days before heading off to school. My vocational aptitude tests led me to HVAC training, precisely what I desired. Starting from basics, my skills grew, eventually making me a mechanic servicing large chillers on ships and submarines. The 4 years in the Navy were mainly spent on a carrier, akin to a floating city. Opting not to re-enlist, I left with valuable training and experience. Upon returning home, I secured a job as a service technician with Johnson Controls, specializing in centrifugal and screw chillers. While the setting differed from my Navy days, the principles remained the same. Settling into an apartment, unpacking brought a tinge of homesickness, prompting me to catch up with my parents at a restaurant. "Alex, you've grown so much." "You look handsome, my son," Mom praised. "I'm 22 now, Mom, so yeah, I've matured." "Dad, I'm a fully qualified service technician with Johnson Controls, primarily working on factory service for chillers," I shared. "Wow, Johnson Controls, that's impressive. I'm proud of you, kid. By the way, now that you're there, Gordon could try for an apprentice spot with your recommendation," Dad suggested. "No way, Dad. If he applies where I work, I'll ensure he doesn't get in. Let's talk about something else." "I don't want to hear about them ever again," I asserted. "All right, Alex. But they've moved out 6 months ago. You can visit our old house without running into them." "I'll still call before you visit, though," Dad said, visibly displeased. I recounted my Navy experience, and Dad beamed with pride. We discussed ports and places I'd been to. "I saw the world." "Why did you just leave like that?" he asked. "You know why," I replied. "As long as I lived with you, I had to deal with seeing them every day, so I made sure I wouldn't be living with you anymore." He just shook his head. I met Joanne Lindley through my coworker, Kyle Laughlin. Kyle asked me to be his best man at his wedding, where Joanne was the wedding planner. It turned out wedding planning was her profession, inherited from her mother. During the rehearsal, I found it hard to take my eyes off her. We joked and teased each other whenever we could. There seemed to be a mutual attraction, and our dating life began with dinner at the rehearsal dinner. Dating Joanne had its challenges. She worked odd hours, often meeting clients and potential clients. Her busiest times were in spring and summer, and she rarely had free weekends. On wedding days, she stayed with her clients until the event ended. Despite these obstacles, we managed to make our relationship work. A year later, I proposed to her when Joanne was 23 and I was 24. Her mother came out of retirement to plan and direct her wedding. My parents adored Joanne, and she had a friendly and adaptable personality. On our wedding day, I made it clear to my parents that I didn't want my brother and his wife sneaking into the wedding or reception. Despite my request, my family didn't cut them off completely. I explained to Joanne that I would never be in the same place as my brother again. 18 months later, our daughter, Elise Renee Whitcomb, was born. She brought so much joy into our lives. My parents acted as if she was their first grandchild, which we appreciated. Joanne's mother also spoiled Elise. Elise loved both of us equally, and we put a lot of effort into being there for her. We maintained strong relationships with both sets of grandparents. After our 8th wedding anniversary, Kyle recommended Joanne to his cousin for their wedding. The day after he attended the rehearsal, he met up with me during my lunch break on a job I was working on. "Hey, Alex, how are things going?" Kyle started. "To be honest, not too well. It looks like I'll have to recover around 700 pounds of refrigerant from this chiller to fix all the low-side leaks I just found. It's going to be a real pain. I understand your frustration, man. I have to replace a motor bearing on a 900 GP open drive motor, but that'll be a piece of cake compared to what you're dealing with. But that's not why I came to see you," he mentioned. "Yeah, what's going on?" I asked. "What I have to tell you isn't going to be easy, but I would want to know if I were in your shoes. So I hope you don't get mad at me for being the messenger." "What are you talking about, Kyle?" "Alex, you know I think Joanne is amazing. That's why I recommended her to my cousin, Ashley, for her wedding." "Yeah, she mentioned that she was working on that one recently. We appreciate your support and thank you for the recommendation. I'm afraid you won't be so grateful once I show you something I think you should know." "Oh, what is it, Kyle?" "Well, I was at my cousin's wedding rehearsal yesterday and the dinner that followed. Joanne made an announcement to everyone about hiring an assistant named Steve Baker, introducing him as someone who would be shadowing her to learn the ropes. It seemed like no big deal at first, right? However, the situation took a turn when I realized that Joanne never informed me about hiring an assistant, nor did she ever mention anyone by that name to me. To make matters worse, it seemed like Joanne didn't even recognize me, probably because it had been a while since I had been around her. She didn't react to my presence at all. After the rehearsal ended and people were gathering for the dinner, the caterer approached me, asking about the power panel because the outlets weren't working. They needed it for the heat lamps used on specialty foods. I looked around for Joanne or Steve, but they were nowhere to be found. When I inquired, someone mentioned that they had gone into the back room to check on something. I went to the back room, which was unlocked, and found it pitch black. I noticed a faint light around the corner, and as I approached, I was shocked to see Joanne performing a sexual act on Steve. He was using his phone's light to illuminate the scene. I can't confirm if he was recording it, but I captured about 90 seconds of the incident on my phone, which has excellent low-light capabilities. I'm sorry, Alex, but I felt you needed to know. I hope you would do the same for me if our roles were reversed. I understand this must be difficult for you, Alex. I assure you that I recorded the video with your best interests in mind. I will transfer the clip to your phone and delete it from mine. It appears that this wasn't their first encounter based on what I witnessed. I'm sorry that you had to witness this, Kyle. I appreciate your honesty and discretion in bringing this to my attention. Thank you for looking out for me, my friend." Later that night, Joanne phoned me at 10 p.m. upon reaching home. "Where are you and Elise?" "It's late. She should already be in bed." "She's spending the night at your mother's." "I'm at a hotel." "Wait, what? What's going on, Alex? Why are you at a hotel? You're not making any sense." "I'll respond to your question with a question. Who is Steve Baker?" "Who? Steve who? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Are you telling me that you haven't hired a man named Steve Baker as your assistant?" "Oh, you mean at work? That Steve Baker?" "No, silly, he's not my assistant. He's just one of the florists I recommend to clients, and we do a lot of weddings together." "I see. And does his florist work also involve you sucking his what? How dare you? You're talking crazy, Alex. Where's all this coming from?" "I'm sending you a short video clip, Joanne. Let me know when you've watched it." 2 minutes later. How? Where? Oh God, where did you get this? It doesn't matter, Joanne. I'm divorcing you. After what Desiree did to me, you know exactly how I feel about infidelity. I'll be fair, we'll split everything right down the middle. If you fight me on this on any issue, especially custody of Elise, which we'll share 50-50, then I'll send copies of that video to all of your prospective customers and all of our family and friends. Goodbye. Joanne and I ended the call. She knew better than to test my resolve. 8 years of marriage down the drain. We sold the house and split the proceeds. She didn't argue with me about anything. It was an amicable divorce. I never asked her any more questions about her affair or if she'd had others. It wouldn't have helped. We did a great job co-parenting Elise. As far as I knew, she didn't berate me behind my back. From the age of 6 to 12, Elise was given the best by both of us. I never badmouthed her mother to her, but I did share a few salient details with friends and family. I could not simply exclude Joanne from my life like I did with my brother and ex-fiancé. We would encounter each other during the weekly exchanges with Elise, as well as at Elise's birthdays and holidays. Despite Joanne's attempts to reconcile, I firmly rejected each one. She maintained a close relationship with my parents due to their role as grandparents, which I had no issue with. Elise underwent therapy once a week for 2 years at my insistence to ensure she had the necessary tools to cope with her emotions following our divorce. She excelled in school and graduated with honors. As a graduation gift, I bought her a safe, slightly used car, covering all costs myself, as I wanted it that way. Before Elise started college, I explained to her the specific reason behind my divorce from her mother, without going into graphic details. Version 1, Elise and Amber graduated from different universities in the same year with their 4-year degrees. Elise found her dreamboat during her junior year, Barry Johnson. He was a nice guy who truly loved Elise. Although we disagreed on some political issues, Elise happily accepted his proposal, and they planned to marry in 9 months. Joanne and I discussed budgets and expectations with them. After deciding on a number, we agreed to split the expense evenly. It was at Joanne's upper limit, and she couldn't afford to contribute more. I could have easily covered the wedding budget alone, but she insisted on paying her share, likely to have control over the wedding, since wedding details are typically handled by the mother. I left them to it. Elise requested my list of potential wedding guests. She and her mother had already finalized their list and were willing to add any additional names within budget. I asked for a copy of their list to see which of my friends were missing. When I reviewed it 2 days later, I was surprised to see Gordon and Desiree Whitcomb and their children, Donna, Clay, and Lisa, prominently featured. Clay was listed as a groomsman and Lisa as the flower girl. I had made it clear to Elise how I felt about my brother and his family, so this inclusion was unexpected. I had a chat with Elise and Barry because I had to. Ellie, you know my thoughts on my brother and his kin. I've been open about it, yet you've gone and asked all of them to your big day, including 2 of their kids in the party. What gives, Dad? I love you tons, Barry, and I both do, but I got curious about them, who they are, and why you don't like them. I needed to see them for myself and make up my own mind. I get this might bug you, Dad, but for the past 4 years, I've been hanging out with them without you knowing. I kept it quiet because I didn't want to upset you. Upset me? You went and got close to them behind my back, knowing how I feel? Yes, we all kept it a secret from you, guessing you wouldn't like it. They're actually great folks. I thought bringing them to the wedding might help fix things with you and a part of your family you've missed for too long. I'm grown now, I can choose my guests, and I picked them for my day. You're right, my dear, but like you said, you knew how I felt, and that's why you all snuck around until the wedding was near. I'm shocked you didn't spring this on me at the wedding itself. We thought about that, but decided it might make you mad and spoil my day. So I chose to tell you now so you could get used to the idea. They've said they won't make true, they miss you and want to see you again. Please do this for me, Dad, it's my day. Does your mom know about this? She knows how I feel. Why didn't she speak up? Of course she knows, Dad. Mom, Grandma, and Grandpa said we should all meet up and fix our family ties to how they used to be. You think you can judge me? What if you had a sister who took Barry from you right before you were going to marry him, and then she got pregnant with his baby? Would you be so kind and loving to your sister then? You've always known where I stand. If my brother and his bunch come, maybe I should think again about paying for my part of the wedding. Oh, really? She was really mad now. Dad, it's time to drop the old stuff. It's all gone and done with. Holding on to anger for so long isn't good for you. Just let it go once and for all. Say hello at my wedding and mend the family. Elise, dear, you know I love you, but this isn't yours to fix. You can want this for me as much as you like, but it won't make me want it. You've never let me down, Dad, not once in my whole life that I can think of. You promised you'd pay half. Are you going to break your promise just because my aunt and uncle will be there? My promise should mean something too, Dad. I promised they would come to my wedding and that Clay could be a groomsman and Lisa could be our flower girl. She had a point there. I've always kept my word, and she knows it. I let out a big sigh. You're right, my girl, sorry for not seeing it. My feelings got in the way. Thank you for reminding me that I keep my word. I'll pay my share of the wedding because I said I would. And you're right too, you made a promise, and just like me, you should keep it. Elise hugged me, happy, but I had more to say. As we're talking about keeping promises, I made a promise a long time ago never to be in the same room as them. I don't lie, and I always keep my promise. When you asked them all to come, you didn't ask me by mistake. You knew I didn't like them, but you still chose to invite them to your wedding. It's your choice, dear, and I respect it. I understand you want to be close to them, and I would never tell you to stay away from them because they didn't hurt you, they only hurt your dad. But I won't walk you down the aisle because I won't be there. Maybe your wonderful uncle can do it. No, you can't do that. Don't you dare say you won't come to my wedding and walk me down the aisle with them there. If you don't come, I'll never talk to you again. She said it with a lot of anger. Elise, dear, you don't know how much it hurts to hear you say that. The bad actions of my ex-brother and his wife, who hurt me, are now complete. They made you choose them over me and keep me away from your wedding. No, Daddy, that's not what I want. I want you at my wedding, and I want you to be happy with them there. Is that what you want? Yes, I wanted a brother who wouldn't hurt me. I wanted a partner who wouldn't cheat and ruin my family. I wanted parents who would listen to me. I wanted a wife, your mom, who wouldn't cheat on me. I wanted all these things, but I got none of them, dear. Since you promised them all, it's better you break your promise to just one person, me, rather than to everyone else. It's the smart and careful choice to make. Now, please let me be. I'm going to drink to forget the pain of not being at your wedding. I wanted to be alone with my sadness. I didn't get what I wanted my mad mom and dad, my angry ex, Joanne, plus my upset girlfriend, Tasha, and her kid, Amber, all tried hard to make me change my mind and say sorry to Elise and be friends again with my brother, who I haven't talked to in over 25 years. Tasha said by not going to the wedding and not walking Elise down the aisle, I would mess up my bond with my daughter. Why talk to Gordon or Desiree now after so long? I must say there's now a gap with Elise, and every family member seems to jump on me for it. I thought hard about it. My choice to keep away from my brother was for me, and my hurt was deep. I told them all that my rules kept my heart safe, but then they all joined to say when my rule means others must feel the same, the rule isn't good. They made me think, is it worth losing so much just to keep this rule of mine living with me? Tasha got to talk to me more. Alex, love, please try to see sense. Can't you try to find a middle ground, one where you can keep your space but not break your ties? What if you go to her wedding and walk her down the aisle but stay far from them? Splitting your bad feelings for your brother from Elise's big day could help you focus your feelings and energy better. Is the old hurt from your brother worth losing so much over? But don't you get it, Tasha? Elise chose to push me away for someone who broke my trust. It doesn't count if it was 25 years back, it's about it happening. It's simple to say move on when it's not on you. Say to Elise if her man cheats tomorrow and goes with someone else, but I stayed pals with him, would she like that? Tasha thought about my point. Elise can't tell you when to let go, but she can choose who to invite to her big day or be close with her uncle. You've got to think if avoiding your brother is worth losing your bond with Elise. If you can't bend a bit, you might hurt your link with Elise badly. Could you live with that? I think folks should respect my line. There are types of getting by I'm okay with. I got tired of always having to explain myself to everyone. I snapped at them, and now I'm not picking up their calls. I've cut ties with my ex, Elise, my folks, and a bunch of other family and friends trying to help. The vibe was icy at my place. We couldn't find a middle ground. Even though it seemed impossible, I was stubborn, mad, and sad, all mixed up. I spent loads of time thinking on what I might lose. Was it just my pride against being with my daughter I love? At least truly. Then I wondered who really loses with what I want. I had to own up. I was shaky. Elise hadn't told me Gordon and his folks were not coming, so she was doing what I told her, keep her promise to them and break hers to me. Like Spock once said, from that Charles Dickens line, more people's needs are bigger than just a few. I felt low on a Sunday, 2 weeks before the wedding. My doorbell rang. Amber was out with her friends, so it couldn't be someone for her. Tasha shouted that she was busy and instructed me to check who was at the door. My stomach churned with anticipation, wondering if I would have to defend myself once again against an unwanted intruder. Eventually, I mustered the courage to stand up from my chair and see who it was. To my astonishment, I muttered in disbelief. "Elise, Daddy, may we come in?" Elise asked, beaming from ear to ear in her magnificent wedding dress. Standing beside her was Barry Dotson, her fiancé, looking dashing in a sharp tuxedo. Behind the couple stood an unfamiliar man in a plain dark suit, holding a Bible. "Of course, sweetheart, come on in. You look absolutely stunning in that dress." "You're so beautiful, it takes my breath away," I praised. "Thank you, Daddy. I was hoping you'd be pleased." "And you too, Barry, you look very sharp," I complimented. "Thank you, sir," he replied. "Welcome to our humble abode, sir. My name is Alex Whitcomb, and you are?" I inquired, addressing the man in the dark suit. "I am Pastor Richard Walters." "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I am here at the request of this lovely couple," he introduced himself. "What's happening, sweetheart?" "I mean, I'm not complaining at all, you look gorgeous. Did you come by so I could see you in all your glory before the wedding?" I asked, slightly confused. "No, Daddy, Barry and I are getting married," Elise explained. "I know that, silly. But why are you here now?" I questioned. "You don't understand, Daddy. Barry and I are getting married right here today in your backyard. We brought the preacher with us, and the photographer will be here in 15 minutes. We had to plan it this way to make it work." Elise clarified, "What? But why?" I trailed off, still trying to process the unexpected news. "Barry convinced me, Daddy," she continued. "He reminded me that you have always been an exceptional father and an honorable man since the day I was born. He asked me, out of everyone I know besides him, whose opinion matters the most to me. Without hesitation, I told him it was you, hands down." All of a sudden, it hit me hard. She began to cry. "I'm sorry, Dad. You are so important to me, just after Barry, but I've been treating you bad, like that wasn't true. And there's more. Barry asked me who I wanted to walk me down the aisle. You know who I picked. He then asked me what was stopping that. I said, you won't be there if my uncle is. Then Barry simply said, so? It was like my eyes were opened, Dad. This is not a drill. Barry and I are really getting married today, in your yard. You're going to walk me down the aisle, making my dream come true today, no matter what anyone else says. I cried as my girl showed me how much she loves me. I couldn't have asked for this. I shook Barry's hand hard. Thank you, Barry. I see now why Elise picked you to be her partner. He just smiled big and shook my hand back. I had another question. What about your mom? Won't she be very mad at you both for skipping the big wedding and just eloping like this? Elise looked sad. I wasn't sure about telling her today, but what she said recently made me decide. We talked about how you won't bend about your brother. Mom got me to secretly talk to your brother's family 4 years back, talking about the wedding. She laughed at how you won't change your mind, saying you're acting like a little kid. Mom knows how much I want you to walk me down the aisle, so I asked her straight up, do you think I should honor Uncle Gordon's family invitation to the wedding, knowing full well that Daddy won't be there because of it? Her response floored me. She said, absolutely. For clarification, I rephrased the question, asking her, are you telling me to intentionally choose Uncle Gordon's family over my daddy? She shocked me again with her answer, your daddy is the most unforgiving alive. Gordon is willing to forgive your dad for the way he's treated his family all these years and is eager to reconnect with him to heal the severed relationship. But no, not your self-righteous of a father. I'm sorry, Elise, but that's exactly what he is. And I admit, he found out about me with another man. One time, I begged and pleaded for forgiveness. But what did he do? He divorced me. Sure, there were other men that he never knew about, but he divorced me for that one instance and threatened my livelihood if I became uncooperative in the divorce. So yes, Elise, I'm telling you as your mother to honor Gordon's family invitation to ensure that your of a father isn't there either. That or force him to grow a pair and man up by mending his stubborn alienation with Gordon. Elise continued, couples elope every day for various reasons. Sure, Mom will be angry for a while, but she, as my parent, was insisting that I choose someone else over my other parent. That's when I realized that she was manipulating me to hurt you because you divorced her. She also expended a lot of effort to put me together with your brother's family, nurtured by Grandma and Grandpa. Because I listened too closely to Mom, I nearly lost my dad. Had that happened, I never would have forgiven any of them. So it's a good thing that Barry helped me come to my senses when he did. Since Mom insisted that I choose one parent over another, that's exactly what I'm doing here today. I wiped tears from my eyes and hugged her. I was so proud to see how wise and grown-up this lovely pair was. Then I thought of something. Did you say photographers were coming? I might let you down, dear, but I gave back my fancy suit weeks ago. I'd be happy to walk beside you in just my undies, but I won't look right in the photos. Tasha made a sound, smiled big, and gave me a small wink. By chance, I went to the suit place a few days back, and they had your suit to rent. It's hiding in the closet with your winter coats. What luck, she said with a cheeky grin. So you knew and kept it from me? I was shocked. I only keep things from you when it's for the best, she said, and this was a good reason. As I put on my suit, the person taking photos and the one making videos showed up and started figuring out where to do their work for this quick wedding. They began with taking shots of Barry and Elise to save time because they had another wedding later. We may do without someone to lead the wedding. Tasha used a CD that Elise had given her and played it on our boombox. The whole thing was done in less than 30 minutes. The preacher spoke so well and knew his stuff. I was so proud walking my daughter down the aisle for that short walk. The person taking photos and the one making videos caught every moment. Elise had brought the top part of their wedding cake for us to cut and share. It was just us there, Elise and Barry, Tasha and me, the preacher, and the photo and video folks. So 7 of us, instead of the big group of 175 they had invited before. When it was time to sign the wedding paper as witnesses, the newlyweds asked Tasha and me. We were over the moon. Elise inserted another CD into the player, allowing her and her newlywed husband to share their first official dance together. Following this, the customary father-daughter dance took place, with Barry gracefully twirling Tasha around in the backyard. It was a flawless moment once the preacher, photographer, and videographer had departed. Tasha kindly invited the newly married couple into our home, where she had prepared a delightful feast consisting of everyone's favorite dishes. I was astounded by how she had managed to conceal her actions from me. It made me wonder if there was more to this remarkable woman than I had initially realized. After the 4 of us had enjoyed a wonderful meal together, I felt compelled to inquire further. What about your original wedding plans and honeymoon? I asked. Barry spoke on behalf of the couple, saying, "We only had to pay a 10% charge to reschedule all of our airline, accommodation, and excursion reservations for our honeymoon. Instead of waiting 2 weeks, we will be starting our week-long honeymoon tonight once we change our clothes here. If you could kindly take us to the airport, we will be flying to the Maldives. We have already prepared separate work-related cover stories, which have been announced to those who need to know. This cleverly explains our unavailability and absence this week. In everyone's mind, the wedding will still take place in 2 weeks." "Just a moment, Barry." I retrieved my wallet, took out a credit card, and handed it to him. "Barry, I already consider you to be an excellent son-in-law. If you would like to be elevated to the status of a fantastic son-in-law, I have a small request for you." "What is it, sir?" he inquired. "I insist that you use this credit card to cover the additional airfare charge expense. Furthermore, I want you to charge no less than $2,500 to this card for anything that the two of you desire to spend during your time there. How you choose to use it is entirely up to you. Just remember, not a penny less. You can exceed the amount, but not go below it. Understood?" I emphasized. "Understood," he replied as they both embraced me in gratitude for the unexpected gift. "I have one more thing to say," I interjected. "Although I could have easily covered all the expenses for your wedding, your mother insisted on paying half, probably so she could have control over everything. If she gives you any trouble about feeling cheated out of her share, I am more than willing to write you a check to reimburse her for every penny." "Thank you, Dad. Barry and I might just take you up on that generous offer, but for today, I have no regrets. This was the perfect wedding day for me." I held her in a tight embrace for about 5 minutes before letting her go to change her clothes. 2 weeks later, Elise and Barry Dotson arrived just in time for their originally planned wedding ceremony, dressed casually. It came as no surprise to anyone that I was not present. "Hello, everyone. Barry and I want to express our heartfelt gratitude to all our friends and family for joining us today to celebrate our marriage," Elise announced. "What you may not know is that we actually eloped 2 weeks ago and had a private ceremony, but that doesn't diminish our desire to share this joyous occasion with all of you. So, if it's all right with everyone, let's go ahead and start the wedding reception." "Let's get the party started," she exclaimed. The crowd erupted with cheers and excitement as the DJ took over. Naturally, there were no professional photographers present. Instead, disposable cameras were placed around the reception hall for guests to capture their own memories of the event. Elise's mother, Joanne, was seething with anger at her daughter for undermining her plans, but she made an effort not to show it in front of the other guests. Gordon, Desiree, and their 3 children, Donna, Clay, and Lisa, along with my parents, were deeply disappointed that they would not have a formal role in the wedding party. They had eagerly anticipated a long-awaited family reunion of the estranged brothers, which now seemed unlikely. Amber, Tasha's kid, told me something she got from Elise without my asking. "Desiree sure did learn after she lost you. She got stronger, made up her mind not to go away again, and stuck with your brother to take care of her kids. It wasn't the family she first wanted, though." I could see the joke in that. Even though I thought I'd never do it, in a soft moment, I got down on one knee when we were at the beach, with the sun low and the view just right. I wasn't sure if Tasha was ready to take my last name, Wickham, but she meant so much to me, I had to try again. She said yes. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new videos.